If you're looking to get more organized with your project management, look no further than this video. I'm going to be going into detail about how you can build project management from scratch inside of Jotform Tables. So if that's of interest, stick around and let's get into it. Hey, my name is Gareth Pronovost. I'm the owner at Gap Consulting, where we help you to organize and automate your business and life. If that's of interest and you want to learn more about that, don't miss our YouTube channel. I'll include links below in the description of this video so you can check that out. But without further ado, let's just jump into the heart of this topic. It's all about using Jotform Tables for project management. So popping on into my screen here, if you're new to Jotform Tables, you can start from just Jotform, jotform.com. And by clicking up here in the upper left corner, you can check out tables. So these are all of the tables that I use on a semi-regular basis. You may have more or less depending on your usage. But a good place to always start when looking for a new table is to see if there's already a template out there for you. In order to check that out, you can come up to the toolbar here, and if you come down on templates, you see there's an option for table templates. So this will get you right to a lot of different templates that Jotform has already made publicly available. But specifically, we're looking for project management. And so in alphabetical order here on the left side, you can search by category, click on project management, and get taken right here. So there's some great project management tools already built, some great templates already put together here that you could just start with, make a copy, and get going right from here. Now in our particular case, I want to do something a little bit more advanced. I'm actually going to build a project management table template of my own from scratch. So let's go ahead and jump into how we can do that. Again, I'm going to start here at jotform.com. And if you're not already in tables, go ahead and get to tables from the list. And I'm going to start by creating a table. So in the upper left corner there, I just select create table, and I'm going to actually be building one, as I said, from scratch. I can, again, I'm prompted with the option of using a template if I would rather go this route, or if I already have a CSV file or an Excel file that I want to convert into a Jotform table, I can do that here too. But I want to start from scratch, from a blank template here, and I'm going to make that selection. Now I need to give this a name, and in our case, of course, it's going to be project management. Go ahead and create that table. And to start with, I have one tab here. It has the name of project management, and it has these three different columns by default. So the name, an email, and notes is just what starts here anytime we start from scratch. So from here, I'm going to need to break down how I personally like to think of projects a little bit deeper. First and foremost, I think a project is kind of the high level here. Projects are those overarching things that are comprised of multiple tasks. So I'm going to have many tasks that connect to a project. And then I also want to have a place where I keep track of who is assigned to what task. So I also need this concept of who's on my team and who's responsible for doing these various things. So how are we going to set that all up? Well, to start with, I'm going to identify those three data sets: projects, tasks, and team members. And I'm going to make each one of them a tab. So I have project management here. Again, this is by default, this is what I named this particular table. And I just want to call this first tab here projects. Now I'm going to create another tab. And here I have the option to tell Jotform how I want to create this. In this case, if it was a calendar, if I had a report or cards that I wanted to bring in, I have those options. But for me, I want this to be just data. So table view is going to work great. And again, do I want to connect this to a form? Do I want to import some data from a file? No, in my case, I'm building from scratch, so I go with the blank option here. Now this particular tab is going to be tasks. I'm going to create this after naming it. And now I have a nice tab here. Now the third set of data was team. So again, I click add tab. I select table view once again, click next, blank, next, and here's where I'm going to bring in my team. Now inside of each of my new tabs, projects, tasks, and team respectively, they all start by default with these same three columns: the name, the email, and the notes. So I need to clean this up a little bit. I'll start with team, and actually this makes a lot of sense for team. Let's say I have a few team members. I've got Wyatt Earp, And let's add another one here, Doc Holiday. And we can throw in their email addresses. And we might have something in addition to that, like the role that they have within the company or phone numbers, whatever pieces of data we need to collect on our various team members. Now, notes in this case doesn't really pertain to anything for me for my particular structure here, so I can go ahead and delete this. And in its place, I can add another one. Let's say I bring in a single select field, and I'll call this role. And maybe I have different options in my company. I might have manager, and I might also have the option of consultant. So once I have those all added, create this column, and now I can make those selections. Let's suppose Wyatt's a manager, and in this case, Doc is a consultant. And now I have a nice little set of data that's tracking the different team members that I have. Now, let's move into projects really quickly. Now, in my case, I like to think, as I said, of projects as being that high-level piece. So let's say we start off with a name, but instead of just calling it name, we'll double-click here and call this project name. And let's put a couple of fake projects to work for us here. We might have one where we are doing a YouTube ad campaign, and maybe another project where we are pouring concrete. Whatever those projects are, in your particular case, drop them in here. Now, I don't need email here, so I can get rid of this. I'll delete that. And I don't need notes here. I can delete that. But I will want to track some other things, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Now, let's drop into tasks briefly and think about the different kinds of tasks we might need as they relate to projects. Now, first, I'm not going to need an email field here, so I can get rid of this here. And similarly, I can get rid of my notes here as well. And I'll rename it, my first column here. Instead of just name, I'll call this task name. So there are a couple of different points of information that I want to track at a task level. Namely, I want to have a task name. So let's say, for example, I need to rake the ground before I lay the concrete. This is like the first task in the project of pouring concrete. So I've named my task. Okay. Now I also have a due date for this. So I need to bring in another column here that will allow me to track the due date for each of my tasks. Now in this case, I'm going to add a new column, and I have a date and time option, so I can select this. When I click next, I have to name it, so I'll call this my due date. And I have a couple of options after that if I want to include time or if I want to enable or disable a date field. So this looks good to me. Toggle whatever makes sense for you on these two options and create the column. So let's suppose that I need to rake the ground on by March 2nd, and then I will pour the concrete on March 5th. And let's assume that these are the two tasks that go along with that particular project. Now, one other thing that needs to happen here is somebody needs to be responsible for each of these tasks. So we need to build a connection to our team. And we already have a team tab up here, but we need to make sure that we've properly connected the two of them. So let's add a new column in our tasks tab, and we have a more complex option here where we can build a connection. So by clicking over here, I will tell it that I want to connect my tasks to my team. And so first I say to a table. And now I need to name the column that's going to appear in my tasks table. So this will be team member. And now I need to select where I'm going to find this information. Well, in this case, the first thing that I have to choose is what table is this in? Now my table is called my project management table. And so it's the one that's right here. I can select this. And now I need to select the tab within this where the team resides. And of course, that's the team tab. Now, lastly, I have to tell it what column in the team tab I want to connect to. Do I want to connect to the name, the email, or the role? Well, in this case, I want to assign a person to each task, so I want to connect to the name. Can more than one person be assigned to each task? If the answer in your case is yes, then keep this toggled on. If the answer is no, only one person per task, toggle it off. And let's create that column. Now that I have this connection, you can see that the color here is matching the color of this tab. And if I click on this particular icon here, this linked icon, it automatically opens up my tab over here for team. Now dropping back into my tasks, let's go ahead and bring in some of those players. So let's suppose that Doc Holliday is responsible for raking the ground, but that Wyatt Earp is responsible for pouring the concrete. So we're almost all set here. Now the last piece I want to do is connect these tasks to the project. So let's suppose that I also wanted to add a linked relationship to my projects. I can add a connection here again, connect to a table, and I can make this one called the project, so we have to pick the name. And again, just as I did before, I have to tell it first what table this data lives in. In this case, it's my project management table. And then I also have to tell it what tab this data lives in this case, the projects tab. And what column do I want to find? Well, in this example, I only have the one column in my projects. Now, each task is only going to belong to one project at a time. So again, I want to toggle this off and create this column. And now I can add the different projects to here. So now I have the two tasks assigned to my pouring of the concrete. Let's give a couple of tasks as well for our other project, namely the YouTube ad campaign. So let's say we have to select a thumbnail, and this is due on 3/15. And we can assign Doc Holliday to this. And then lastly, we can go ahead and say publish the campaign. And let's suppose that this was due in the on the 22nd of March. And we'll give this to Wyatt. And again, this is going to belong to the YouTube ad campaign project. Now, one last thing that we'll probably want to track here is going to be a checkbox to see which of these are complete. So we'll make a checkbox here for marking project tasks once completed. And we can track the progress that we're making as an organization. One last step you may want to go forward with is also grouping. So if you wanted to see all of your tasks grouped by project, the easiest way to do that is to right-click on the project column and to select Group By here. And in doing so, you see that we have a nice, concise dashboard that's properly grouped. So now I can see all of the tasks that are assigned to one project in one rolled up sub-campaign here, or sub-tab. And if I wanted to get even more granular, I can now create a tab that is specific for the tasks inside of a specific project. So there are a lot of different ways that you can work within Jotform Tables to handle your own project management. What I've gone through here today is just one example, but do check out those templates as well, and be sure to let us know in the comments below how you are using these different templates and tools within Jotform Tables to manage your projects.